Hello and welcome back to One More Row, the channel where we expand our knitting skills one row at a time. My name is Dana and today we will be doing some double knitting and I will be showing you how to work increases and decreases when working double knitting. So if that is of interest to you, please stay tuned. Okay, so as you can see, since our last video, I have done a bit of work on the double knitting scarf. I have quite a long way to go because I'm not even halfway through the first pattern repeat, chart repeat. And this one has 6, so it's quite a long scarf. And it's slow going, obviously, because it's double knitting, so it takes twice as much time. But as you can see, it's the reversing now. It's a lot easier than when it was in the stripes, but you can see now that the fabric is reversible and it looks really cool. And I do like the colors and the way they're coming out. And I am a big fan of doing color work using variegated yarn that have very long color blocks, because then you look clever, because you get the effect of having multiple colors, but you don't actually have to have the annoyance of weaving in multiple ends. Okay, so we're going to get started, and as always, we slipped these 2 stitches previously at the end of the last row, and now we're going to knit into the back of the first one and then cross the strands and purl the second stitch in the pair. And what that does is that gives you neat and tidy edges. So we will do that quickly. Like this. I do prefer to hold my yarn in each hand. It works a little, I find it goes a little faster. Helps if we cross that over. So to cross the yarn, instead of dropping the yarn and manually crossing them, I'm just going to loop my green yarn around, which is your first yarn, and then bring the gray one down over the needle in the opposite direction, and then take the green one back. And what that does is that crosses the yarns and you didn't have to actually drop them. So I've got a few stitches to go before my first increase, so I'm just going to do that. Most likely it will be fast forwarded in the video. Okay, so we've come to our first increase, and it is a lifted increase, which is one of the easiest ones to do. The increases are actually quite easy to do. It's the decreases that require some stitch manipulation. So this is a lifted increase. Lifted increases mean that you lift the strand of yarn that's in between your stitches and you put it on your needle. I always knit into the back when I do that, because that way I don't get a big hole. So you do the first one, then you have to do the same thing for the back. So you're going to lift the back strand there, and then the purl one's sometimes a bit awkward, but you want to make sure that stitch is twisted as well so that you don't have a hole in the back. And that's how you do the lifted increase. Oh, and in the previous row I messed up. So I'm going to show you how to fix a mistake when you are going by on your next row. So what I did was I took the strand that I'd knit on the previous row into that stitch and I pulled it out. So now we are down one level lower. It's going to move that out of the way because that stitch should be gray. So I'm going to pick up that strand and I'm just going to pop it over. That also means that if this is supposed to be gray, that's supposed to be green. So I'm going to bring my needle in and take that thread out, pick up the green one, and then just pop it over purlwise, and there you go. That's how you fix your errors when you catch them early enough when you're coming back. Any mistakes that are way down here, I have no cure for that except ripping it out. So just be diligent and careful. Okay, so we're coming up to our next type of increase. It is a right side increase. And instead of lifting the bar, we're going to lift the front leg of the stitch that is immediately below the stitch that's currently on your needle. And you're going to lift that on. You need to knit into the back. That's how you get the lean. So I usually just manipulate my left hand needle so that, as you can see, once I knit this, my stitch is going to be crossed. Okay, and then you do the same on the other side. Okay, so you're just going to pick that up and you're just going to purl it like you normally would. This one's not a twisted stitch. And then we are going to knit the next 3 pairs like this. Okay, now the next is our first decrease, and this one we're going to decrease these 3 stitches. Normally, if this was just plain flat knitting, what it would be slip your first one, knit the next 2 together, and then pass the slip stitch over. But because we have the way our pairs work, we have to switch the stitches around a little bit before we can do that. So this is how I do it. And you're going to need you can use a cable needle if you want, or this is just a double pointed needle that I have. Anything that's going to sort of help you out is fine. So you're going to slip your first stitch, and then you're going to take your extra needle and slip the back one purlwise, and then just hold it at the back. Then you're going to slip your next knit one, and then the next purl stitch you're going to slip on there, and then you're going to slip that on there. Your next stitch you're going to slip it onto your right hand needle, and then I just put them all back. So now we have knit, 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 purl, 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 and that's what we want. So okay, so your chart will indicate what color. So in this case it's going to be, the final stitch is going to be green, and I'll show you how to do that. So what you're going to do is you're going to slip your first stitch purlwise, and then you're going to knit the next 2 together. Now make sure, use your thumbnail or whatever you have to make sure that your back stitches are clear. You only want these 2, and what can happen sometimes is, because they want to stick together now, because these are having to stretch over quite a bit to get to where they are on the needle, that it's quite easy to knit that in with those 2, and you don't want that. So just kind of hold back those back stitches with your thumbnail and knit these 2 together with green, and then flip that over there. Now you're going to bring both stitches to the front, both strands of yarn to the front. It would help if I could talk. And then you're going to slip that first stitch purlwise, and then you're going to purl those 2 together with your gray color, and then slip that one over. And that is how that particular decrease is done. And then we're going to go along and we're going to do the next one, which is a left side increase. So I need to work the next 3 pairs. Okay, it's 3 pairs, and okay, so this one is a left side increase. So it's a tiny bit different than the right side increase in that we're not going to work into the stitch that's immediately below the one on our needle. We're going to work into the one below that. and we aren't twisting it. Okay, so you're just going to pick that up, put that on your needle, and then just knit into it. Okay, we don't want a twisted stitch. The purl one on the back, however, you're going to put that on there, and then you're going to purl into the back, because we do want a twisted stitch, because that's how you get it to go the other way. Because double knitting, the back row is always opposite. And then we're going to continue along. Okay. And I messed this up on the previous row again. I don't know what I was thinking, but I'm just going to quickly fix it, like I showed you before. When I do make mistakes, what I'm finding is when I do make the mistakes, I make them on the opposite row. Because the color chart, all the colors are opposite of what they visually look like, and sometimes that messes my brain up a little bit, but that's okay. It's easily fixed, and away we go. Okay, and then here, and then, so now we are going to do a, in flat knitting, what would be a slip knit, or a knit two together through the back, which is my preferred way of doing it. But again, the same when we did our 3-stitch decrease here, our stitches aren't in the right spot. I don't know that I'm going to use my double pointed needle for this, because it's actually quite easy just to slip that off, slip those off, and then what I do is I just quickly insert the needle into the purl stitch, pull that out, and then pick up the 2 knit ones. Okay, so I'm just going to knit two together through the back, and that's going to get our decrease to curve that way, which is what we want, because that will follow the shape of the center panel. And then you're just going to purl 2 together. You don't need to do it as a twisted decrease, because we twisted the front decrease. So, and I will show you the last one, which is at the other end of this little panel, and then we will be finished this part. Okay, so now we are at the next stitches that we want to decrease, and these are a knit 2 together style decrease, because we want it to go this way. So just going to pick those 3 up, and then take my needle, pick the purl one on the left one, and then put those back. And then you just take your needle, and you're going to knit 2 together, and then with this one you're going to purl 2 together, but through the back so that they twist. And that is it for all the decreases. I still obviously have more knitting to do, but I won't make you watch that, because this has taken quite a long time. Now you will notice in this video that I did hold my right hand needle a little differently. Normally when I knit, I hold it like a pencil, but because the fabric is so thick on this double knitting, I'm just going to work it while holding it like a knife, and then working my stitches that way, and that works just as well. So that's how you do various increases and decreases in double knitting. I didn't show you what it looks like on the chart, because I don't want to violate the author of the pattern's copyright by showing the chart. The symbols look just the same as they do on any other knitting chart that has increases and decreases, because they are the same. It's just the difference is a little stitch manipulation. So anyway, I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified when I upload a new video. And If you have any questions or anything you'd like to tell me about in your adventures with double knitting, please leave a comment, and I will see you next time. But in the meantime, happy knitting.